Community Hotline is made possible with generous support by the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission advocates on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
Hi and welcome to Community Hotline. My name is Monica Weitzel. We're here in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. We're talking with nonprofits, schools, other organizations that are doing really good work in the community. And tonight we're going to start off talking with the Columbia Slough Watershed Council. And here to represent the council is Karen Carisho, and I'm so happy to have you here, Karen.
Thank you so much for having us.
You are, tell me, what is your role there? You're the outreach and events coordinator, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
I do outreach for the council and also plan over 40 different events throughout the year. 40
different events. Yeah. That is more than most events coordinators have to take on.
Yeah.
But the council does a lot of things. I was amazed how many places you have fingers, you know what I mean? There's a lot going on. Can you give me just kind of a brief overview of what the Watershed Council does?
Yeah, so the watershed is a very fascinating place.
Yeah, or tell me what the watershed is. I bet there's a lot of people that don't know what that even means.
Definitely, and so it has a really long history, all the way spanning back before the early 1800s.
Wow.
So initially the watershed was actually a floodplain of the Columbia River. So it fled every year and it was used for transportation or for gathering for Native American people. And then as industrialization began to happen, we started building different levee systems and using the land for agriculture. So as the watershed changed, there was a lot of industry that developed, and within that time there was kind of a lot of pollution and contamination that would then happen in the watershed.
I don't think we worried about it so much in the past as maybe we are now.
We are now, which is great. And so the Columbia Slough Watershed Council was founded in 1996, and it kind of spanned from an effort from community members, recreational advocates, and environmental people who wanted to come together and say, hey, this is actually a really incredible asset to the community. You know, this spans for 19 miles all the way from Fairview through Gresham and Portland to North Portland. And so how can we get together and form something where we can serve the community and the watershed and all the wildlife that is there at the same time. So through that, the Watershed Council developed 3 different programs. So one of them is the education program, which serves over 6,000 students over a year.
Wow, so this is part of the school system.
Yeah.
It's a part of their curriculum?
Yeah, so there's different curriculum for all the way from K through 12 for the Slough School program. And it's gained a really great reputation because we work across all the different school districts, work on, educating youth about what are watersheds and what are different wildlife, fish species that you might find, or macroinvertebrates. But we do all of the programming, we do presentations in the classroom, and then we take youth on field trips to natural areas.
And that's where they really get hooked, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're moving and they're seeing everything that they're studying in person and really connecting with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've lived in a part of town where I've been really close to the Columbia Slough for probably 20, 25 years.
Great,
yeah. And so my kids were, raised along the Columbia Slough, and I remember the longest time I didn't know what a slough meant. I mean, so it's like one of those words like watershed and slough. You don't If you don't, I don't remember even hearing those words when I was growing up, but now that's that's part of our life, and the fact that the council is so active in maintaining it and promoting it, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and so along with our Slough School program with education, we also work with community members across restoration work, which is the second program that we offer.
Okay.
So we do stewardship Saturdays, which are basically work parties, and we have anywhere from 20 to 80 volunteers that come out, business partners, community organizations, or just community members who are interested in getting to know native plant species more or invasive species. So they come out and we provide all of the equipment and have a restoration party, and we restore part of the slough.
So when you talk about restoring part of the slough, is that like getting rid of invasive species, or is that part of the kind of work you do?
It's the hands-on work of getting rid of invasive species, putting native plants in the ground. And over the course of the last 23 years that the council has been around, we've done over 1 million plantings of
My goodness.
trees and native shrubs. So it's really impressive. And some of the most recent work is to build rain gardens, especially in low-income households. So it's a partnership with Verde and the Slough Watershed Council. So,
and Verde is a nonprofit organization.
Nonprofit organization in the heart of the Coley community in Northeast Portland.
In Northeast Portland, sure. Yeah. So, when you say are you teaching them to build rain gardens? Are you providing? How does that work? And what do you mean by a rain garden?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's actually, a rain garden is basically helping to collect the water that's coming from your roof that would tend to go onto an impervious surface, so a paved area where nothing's filtering into the ground.
Or my really hard ground where it just floods it.
So it would just run straight into the watershed. So anything that's picking up any gas leaks, even the rubber from your tires when you're driving will release contaminants. So all of that will run into the watershed and affect the fish and the wildlife that's living there.
And probably maybe animal feces and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if you're walking your dog and not picking up after them, things like that.
One of my pet peeves.
Yeah. And so the rain garden is an educational opportunity for people who are new. But what it basically does is it makes all of that water that's coming from your roof go into a space that is then filtered into the ground by native plant communities. It could be a community garden, and in some cases you can actually reuse some of the water that's coming from your roof and filter it through these natural systems and reuse it for watering your garden.
Wow.
So it's a really fascinating system. And in addition to that, there's also eco roofs, which you might have heard of.
I don't really know very much about them, but I have heard the term. But yeah. So you educate people about those things, and then help. And then there's a that's part of your restorative work.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the right word, restorative work, to help people create those.
And a lot of the focus for the Slough Slough is because we are working, there's a lot of industry where we have a lot of different partners. So there's a lot of private and public landowners that we're working with.
Oh, okay.
So that includes businesses. We would do work with the Port of Portland and with Boeing. And so this helps to diversify the access that we have to the Slough Slough.
Port of Portland owns a lot of the property along the slough, don't they? Or I'm not sure if I'm right about that. But
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I remember hearing a speech from the guy, the head of the Port of Portland. He was talking about the Columbia Slough and about, and he actually mentioned the Watershed Council and the amazing work that you guys do.
We do a lot of work together.
So I imagine those partnerships with the community are really key.
They are
really key. So. If people, so you have education, restoration, and what was the third one?
The third one's recreation.
Recreation.
And recreation is really fascinating because 20 years ago, the slough wasn't necessarily a place that you might have wanted to go canoeing or kayaking. But because of the efforts of doing cleanup, of doing education, so that people are aware of the great asset that the Columbia Slough can provide. We now have up to 600 people canoeing and kayaking the slough.
I do remember that because I was in that area that long ago, and I have seen and heard, people talking about how, when we're a long time ago, it's like, no, you don't want to go down there by the slough; it's dirty, and and now that's not the case at all.
Yeah, and it's a place that people want to, to co-create together and to restore. And it is something that you can go canoeing on the Kalamazoo and you'll see more wildlife than you might if you go out further and you're hiking.
So besides fish and obviously birds, there's lots and lots of birds. What other kinds of wildlife would you see?
There's many different turtles. So the Kalamazoo actually houses the biggest protected urban wetland in the United States.
Wow.
So Smith and Bybee Lakes.
I was going to say that's out in North Portland.
North Portland is a great turtle habitat enhancement. And there's several projects that are happening right now from the Watershed Council to provide more turtle habitat. And one thing that's interesting for the recreation program is we have a bilingual nature festival called Esperando.
Right.
We've been doing it for about 15 years, and this year is actually happening at the Colwood Golf Center, which is interesting.
Yeah, Colwood is, I drive by it every day.
Exactly.
I've golfed there. I've golfed there, so yeah, I'm familiar with it. They've actually been fixing it up a little bit. They've been
exactly. So there's actually been some turtle habitat enhancement projects that have been happening there.
Nice.
And part of the event happening here is historically been hosted at Whitaker Ponds Nature Park.
Which isn't very far from there, is it?
Which isn't very far. It's just off of Columbia Boulevard and 47th. But that park is actually getting a new parking lot through this during the summer. And they're building some bike lanes along that road, which is going to increase the accessibility to the park, which is great.
That's great. You brought some pictures, I think, from a previous Explorando celebration, so maybe we could take a look at those and get a feel for what people can look forward to.
Yeah.
See if we can bring those up. That looks like fun.
So that's actually from last year. Some community members out canoeing on the Columbia Slough. And what we do, and you can see that there, we hold 2 canoes with 2 boards in the middle.
I was going to say, that's one big canoe.
Yeah, it's a catamaran.
Yeah, it is. It's like a catamaran.
And it really increases the accessibility. So we have events where we have, pregnant women that go out canoeing. We have the babies going out.
All ages. Huh?
All ages.
That looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And so you can also see, there's a lot of really rich areas of plant communities around the watershed. So while you're going out, you are really going from Columbia Boulevard into this really hidden gem.
Yeah, you're in this industrial area that doesn't look like there's any sort of wildlife there, and there you are.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
And recently, we also have some performers. So this was Danza Azteca, which is a local performance group. They've performed over the last couple of years. Explorando is really aimed at inviting everybody in the watershed and across Portland to come and learn more about the rich history of the Kalamazoo watershed. And because we are in the Coley community, that's where the event is held, we partner with community members and with community organizations. So our strongest partnerships are with, and actually this is from last year as well, so that's a python
yes, I just
that
saw
the Oregon Zoo SAB team brings out. So it's a really great opportunity to connect with other resources, not just what the Kalamazoo Watershed Council offers, but other groups that are on a similar mission in engaging community members in restoration efforts or education about local wildlife. And that's
that'd be like the zoo and the Audubon.
So we have over 20 community booths that come. And another part of Explorando is to connect local community members with resources. So we have employment opportunities that come from a lot of the community organizations that are there, volunteer opportunities. So it's not just a space to learn about the watershed, but it's how do people get involved.
That's great. And you have people there that speak Spanish and English at this event, right?
Okay. So all the activities are bilingual.
Good, good. We're almost out of time, Karen. Tell me real quick, the volunteer opportunities, what if you have never done anything with this kind of organization? What if you don't really know much about your local environment? Can you still volunteer there?
Definitely, and we welcome it because it's such a wonderful place. We're a really small staff and a small team, and so this year we actually built and really made a robust curriculum for our paddle team. So our paddle team is actually a group of volunteers that help to lead all of these community members that go out at our recreational events in canoes and kayaks. So we have about 27 community members who have volunteered their time, and in turn they get training for learning about different plant species, learning about the demographics of the watershed, canoe and kayaking techniques, and all of that.
Sounds great. It sounds like great fun. Well, we will have the information on Explorando on the screen here so that people will know where and when. This is June 24th from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Colwood Golf Course, but they can go to the website for more information.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Karen, so much. It's a great organization and doing amazing work, and I love the volunteer opportunities. It just sounds like so much fun. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You bet. And don't go away. We have more of Community Hotline coming up, so check out the information on the screen, and then we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hotline is made possible with generous support by the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission advocates on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
My favorite thing about community media is how people find their voice and tell their story.
It's the message of, by, and for a community.
We're a gathering place because it gets people of all sorts of different backgrounds underneath one roof.
It's art, it's technology.
A snapshot of our community.
Going live.
In 3, 2, 1.
We've all heard the term America as the great melting pot as far as bringing in people of different backgrounds and cultures. I kind of think of community media as a melting pot as well.
What is it about this place that makes so many different people come together?
It gives you the ability to come out and say your point of view.
It's very important to me and lots of other people also, for us from different backgrounds, different beliefs.
Different religious groups.
It doesn't matter what your color is, what your race is, what language you speak. Anybody can come.
This is a freedom of speech place. It's a place where you can bring your ideas.
Well, that's a wonderful thing about our democracy in this country is providing the soapbox.
This is America. This is American station right here.
You're lucky enough to be watching the channels at MetroEast Community Media.
Coming here to shoot my documentary was more than I ever would have dreamed of doing.
This is a community media station.
It was phenomenal.
Ready, camera one.
What is it about this place that makes so many different people come together?
Ready, camera two.
Very professional, experienced people. You can use these industry standard pieces of equipment.
Ready, camera three. Take three.
You don't have to be rich to do this.
Open people's eyes to something they've never even thought of before.
Cool stuff happens. It becomes this community.
That's going to really change who's telling the stories and who's controlling the messaging.